CJ Stroud officially out. Texans got a lot of questions heading into this game against the Cleveland Browns. Let's get into them in the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know
Big
what we
week this week. Game before Christmas. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. CJ Stroud officially out. We kind of knew this was the case. CJ Stroud not going to play. Guys continue to press to pass protocol, but CJ Stroud, he's out. He's not going to play. I've heard that he's doing much better though. He's on track towards playing against the Titans. Don't directly quote me on that. You can, but that's what I've heard. I think things are going a little bit better. Look, we don't know this protocol. We don't know how they handle these situations. We don't know like if they factor in previous injuries, whatever. But it is interesting that CJ Stroud is in the protocol a lot longer than a lot of guys who have had concussions or have had head injuries, including other guys in this game. We see Jimmy Ward kind of hit his head, etc. The thing that I've gotten the most amused about, we've gotten it a lot on the text line, got it a little bit on Twitter today, had a little bit of a back and forth, is concern being countered with like some sort of notion that all concussions aren't the same. No kidding. Like, I don't, obviously all head injuries aren't the same. I don't think anyone that's concerned about CJ Stroud is acting like he walked into a restaurant at the same time as Michael Pittman, and Michael Pittman got seated in 20 minutes and CJ Stroud got seated in an hour. Obviously, there's different levels to it. It's about, obviously, there being a little bit more severity for whatever reason, the protocol taking a little bit longer for CJ Stroud. But I always like the no bleep, like there's different layers to the concussion protocol. Yeah, no kidding. There's different layers to a sprained ankle. There's different layers to a stub toe. There's different layers to any injury. I don't think that's anyone's point. I don't think anyone is complaining about being cautious with CJ Stroud, and B, of him somehow getting, having the same injury as Michael Pittman or Cam Hayward or Brock Purdy or Derek Carr or Trevor Lawrence or Jimmy Ward. I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, obviously, it's a little bit serious. So I've had a lot of people on the text line and stuff talk about, it's and really in here, there's different layers. No kidding. I heard D'Amico say, I think it's necessary for D'Amico, but there's, I had a back and forth on it today when the Trevor Lawrence thing came through, and it's like, brother, you're not saying anything enlightening. Like, yeah, obviously there's different layers to the concussion. So we know that CJ Stroud is going to be out. As I get off my my soapbox, it is the locker room. I've been known to do that though. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610. Be sure to subscribe, right along as well. Exclusive interview this week was with Matt Burke. Really enjoyed talking to him. He's going to be a little bit shorthanded as well. Blake Cashman and Will Anderson, they're rolled out for Sunday. You need to get these guys right. Cashman has had trouble staying on the field consistently. That's just part of the deal. Got to get him right. I do think he's going to be missed this week more so than last week. Njoku is a problem. And the Texans have problems guarding guys on those intermediate routes. So I think Blake Cashman will definitely be missed. Will Anderson, of course, you're going to miss him. But Matt Burke said, this is kind of a plug and play type of D-line. And we saw the performance they put on the other day without him. Let's look at the full injury report. A couple of other things to kind of make a note of. We already mentioned Will and Cashman and CJ out. Malik Collins, this is something to look at. Malik Collins has a hurt hip. Malik Collins has had a really, really good year. He was one of the best players on the field the other day against the Titans / Oilers. Malik Collins, if he can't go, you've added some bodies there, so maybe you can try to overcome it, but he would definitely be missed. Nico Collins, he says he's going to go. That's what he said to Cody Stutes and other media types in the locker room. The Denzel Perriman, he's questionable. I think he'll be good to go. He's a very valuable piece as well. So keep an eye on him. And then it looks like you're going to have Noah Brown. You're going to have George Fant. You're going to have Brevin Jordan. You're going to have Shaq Mason. Mechie, if he's active. Steven Nelson, Laramie Tunsil, and Jimmy Ward. I think Mechie will be active. Would it shock me if he wasn't? No. I think Steven Sims. I think they might like Steven Sims better. Hopefully they get rid of that weak ass reverse though, that they ran a couple of times. Here are the 10 questions that I have, and I hope everyone's having a good Christmas weekend. I've gotten to the point now in my life, and I don't know if many of you can relate to this. This is kind of rando, where there was a long time, probably longer than it probably should have been, where hell, it didn't even matter if it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but you were just looking forward to partying balls on Friday night into Saturday into Sunday, and you still do a little bit of that. I'm to the point now between the show from 10 to 2, the stream daily, number one source for Texans daily digital content, and all the other stuff going on. I'm to the point where I just look forward to that Saturday sleep in. Like sleeping in till like 9:45, 10. I start looking forward to that on like Tuesday and start looking forward to the games and stuff. And there's a lot of good ones this weekend. It's going to be fun getting out there. I know that sounds really, really rowdy. Question number 1, can Case Keenum play better? I know that Case Keenum, he's a gutsy guy. I know that it was nice to see Case Keenum get the job done the other day. Props to D'Amico and company for making the right decision and it paying off. But he's going to have to play better against the Browns than he did the Titans. 229 yards, touchdown, interception, 23 of 36. Look, if you watch that game, he could have easily thrown a couple more picks. And he also left a little bit of meat on the bone. Couple throws that he's just really not capable of making at this point in his career. And he's always been kind of a reckless guy with the football, kind of a gunslinger. He's going to have to be better against this Browns defense. This is one of the best defenses in the league. They got one of the best players in the league. Can Case Keenum play better? Because if he doesn't, then you're just going to have to hope that the Texans defense duplicates what they did the other day, and they're able to get the job done. Keenum has to play better. That's question number 1. Question number 2, can the Texans have a similar defensive effort? Cleveland runs the ball pretty decently. I think they're 10th in yards per game. They don't have Nick Chubb, so they haven't really run the ball as effectively at times. It hasn't been consistent. But can the Texans, they're obviously not going to hold the starting running back to under 9 yards or 10 yards, whatever they did Derrick Henry. But can the Texans have a similar defensive effort to the one they had the other day? Joe Flacco's a statue. I don't think he's got a little bit better pocket presence than Will Levis. So it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to sack him. But they're going to have a similar defensive effort. They're going to have to do so without Will Anderson. Question 3, how much will Garrett impact the game? It's not a matter of will Myles Garrett impact the game. It's a matter of how much. We've seen Will Anderson block kicks. Myles Garrett does that too. Myles Garrett is an absolute freak. Last time Laramie Tunsil went against a Pro Bowl / all pro caliber guy, he got absolutely embarrassed. the Josh Allen, there's no other way to put it. Unless you don't have a high standard for Laramie Tunsil, that was a bad game. Most pressures he's ever given up. Josh Allen, I think he had double-digit pressures. I think 8 of them were against Laramie Tunsil. Myles Garrett's a better player than Josh Allen. Myles Garrett is an absolute freak. Now they're going to move him around. They'll put him in front of the center, which is a terrifying thing to even think about. But how much is he going to impact the game? Can you minimize that impact? Because he is going to. And the saving grace for Myles Garrett is he's been playing with pretty much one shoulder. I think it's getting a little bit more healthy, but in the last few games, he had a sling on a few games ago. He hasn't missed. The team gravitates towards him. He's JJ Watt caliber-esque. What we were used to, where JJ Watt can single-handedly win you a game. That's what Myles Garrett is. Myles Garrett's one of the 5-10 best players in the game right now, and he's kind of gutting it out. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how much, and how do you minimize it. And the crazy thing about it is you don't know where it's coming from. So, it's not like you can just look to your left and see him lined up, on Tunsil, or look to your right and see him lined up on Fan. They're going to put him in the middle. They're going to put him on the outside. They're going to put him all over the place. How much will Myles Garrett impact the game? Might be the best player that you're playing this year. Question 4, what will the Texans run game look like? I thought it was really interesting. Bobby Slowick, I don't think he's quite ready to quit Dameon Pierce. And I know that sounds nuts. Devin Singletary is obviously the best fit. Devin Singletary is obviously the best back. Devin Singletary should never really take a back seat to Dameon Pierce, but it doesn't seem like Bobby Slowick wants to quit Dameon Pierce. If you go back and listen to his press conference, we have it in the last video. That's the place where you can go check it out. Doesn't seem like he's necessarily ready to quit Dameon Pierce. Now, what does that mean? Do I think Dameon Pierce is going to have more carries than Devin Singletary? No. But I wouldn't completely dismiss him from having opportunities. I don't think the one carry thing is going to be something that we're going to see as often. And we got to see a good game from Dameon Pierce eventually. You can't give Singletary the rock 25, 30 times a game. I love what he's done. I think you got to keep. I'm not saying you load manage him, and load management's kind of gotten like a negative connotation because of NBA. But you got to find other ways. And I think this offseason, that's going to be a big thing. They're going to have to prioritize the running back and get some running backs, multiple running backs that can be effective, because Dameon Pierce, quite frankly, hasn't been effective, but it doesn't seem like Bobby Slowick wants to quit him. The other thing is that, are they going to be able to run the rock? They haven't consistently been able to do that. Now, we've seen them, at times do it, and then the next week they can't. Are they going to be able to continue to run the rock? What will the run game look like? There's a lot of layers to that question. Mike Boone to the active roster. I don't know what that even means. I don't know. What is it? How are they going to use Mike Boone? There's been times where he's been active and he's touched the ball twice. I know there were a couple games where he had, I think his one carry was 11 yards and then 9, and then we didn't see from him again. So I don't know what Mike Boone I don't even know what that looks like or what that is. Question 5, this is going to be the biggest one. Can the Texans contain Njoku? 18 catches, 3 touchdowns the last couple of weeks. He's one of Flacco's favorite guys. He's one of the most, I would say, underrated tight ends in the league after being kind of overvalued. I'm sure some of you drafted him in fantasy in certain years and were pissed off by the lack of production. He seems to have found his groove, and specifically he's found his groove with Joe Flacco. And if you watch the Texans, and most of you do, or if you're coming here to figure out about the Texans, I don't know what the Mike Boone thing is. He got released for the big boy from the Titans. I don't know if they brought him back on the practice squad or not. I really haven't been paying attention to the Mike Boone thing. Can the Texans contain Njoku? That's going to be tough. Christian Harris has been kind of inconsistent. in coverage. So we'll see what that looks like. Do we see more Dare Agunbowale? We can go back to the Dare thing. They had him running routes the other day. Do we see more of him? Is he kind of the one to ease the load? I don't know. But yeah, there's real concern about Njoku and the run game. Who do y'all think should get, going back to question 4, who do you think should get carries at this point? Do you think Dare needs to be more involved? Do you think that Dameon Pierce needs to be more involved? Do you just want to run Devin Singletary? Who should be more involved? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm just shocked that Dameon Pierce. I didn't think Dameon Pierce would be really, really effective or anything, but I definitely thought that he'd be more of an asset than he's been in this system. Question 6, this is kind of a personal thing. What is the vibe going to be like? Is there going to be a lot of orange? Is there going to be a lot of Browns fans? Is the stadium going to be empty? Is it going to be full? People don't seem to be buying in completely on this Texan squad. The fans that are there have been loud as hell. The atmosphere has been nice. The vibe, the game day. I think next year we're back to weekly sellouts, but what's it going to be? Is it going to be a dud? Is it going to look bad on TV? Or is there going to be a lot of dog pounders? That's something to keep an eye on too. What's the vibe going to be like? Also, it's Case Keenum and it's Joe Flacco. It's not quite CJ Stroud versus Deshaun Watson. So what is that going to be like? Question 7, can the Texans secondary be the difference? I think this is the strength of the team, or one of the strengths of the team, especially when you match them up against the Cleveland receivers. Steven Nelson, he's been solid all year. Big play against the Titans. He's held his own. Derek Stingley's been nothing short of elite since he came back. And we know what Jimmy Ward can do. He's made big plays this year when he's healthy. Jalen Petrie, consistent-ish. As far as, helping out against the run, although there's been some missed tackles and he hasn't gotten an interception this year. Can the secondary be the difference? Make that big play. We saw Stingley do it against the Broncos, and then we saw Jimmy Ward last week. The Steven Nelson interception was a huge momentum swing. The Stingley INTs before that. Can the secondary be the difference? Because I think that's one of the strengths of the Texans. So keep an eye out on that. Question number 8, who will win the head coaching matchup? This is interesting because, I say Kevin Stefanski's done an excellent job. And right now, if I had a coach of the year ballot, I'd have Stefanski. I would actually have Stefanski, Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans. And I would also factor in that, and this probably shouldn't have anything to do with it, but I would factor in that Philadelphia's offense looks lost without Shane Steichen, and they clearly miss him. And it's interesting because D'Amico gets his crack at both those guys, but who wins? And the reality is, we keep an eye on Browns games. We've probably seen 1 or 2 full Browns games, but as far as like the specifics of like the in-game coaching, the clock management, all that type of stuff, we really haven't seen it. This is going to be, the opportunity to see how does Stefanski handle things? How is Stefanski handling challenges? How is the game plan going? And we know D'Amico. I think the clock management's been good with D'Amico. I think there's been a questionable decision here or there, although nothing too crazy. Maybe inconsistent aggressiveness. The decision to kick the field goal instead of go for it with CJ. But who wins this head coaching matchup? Because I think whoever wins this is going to have a good chance to win Coach of the Year. And if D'Amico wins it, and then 2 weeks later he gets a chance to go at Shane Steichen, it could basically be like an unofficial tournament, like Coach of the Year type of tournament. Question number 9: will familiarity play a role? So there's a lot of layers to this. Kevin Stefanski knows Case Keenum very well. The Browns head coach had him. He was his quarterback coach in Minnesota when he was having the best seasons of his career. He was also with him in Cleveland, so they know each other very well. Jim Schwartz, he gave Matt Burke, defensive coordinator for the Texans, his first job. Matt Burke told me 2 days ago or yesterday that he owes his coaching career to Jim Schwartz. So it's kind of a similar-ish system. Kevin Stefanski also tried to hire Matt Burke, the D-line coach for the Browns last year. He's now with the Texans. So there's a lot of familiarity. I don't know how this factors in. I don't know how it comes into play. I would say the most significant thing would be that Kevin Stefanski knows Case Keenum. He knows his weaknesses. He knows what he hates to do. And he knew those weaknesses when Case was really in his prime. Case is not in his prime anymore. That was over a half decade ago. And I doubt those weaknesses have become strengths. So I think of all the things that could factor in, I think Stefanski's knowledge of Case Keenum could be the biggest one. And question 10, what happens elsewhere? Scoreboard watching is kind of a thing. Obviously, the Texans got to handle their own business. They control their own destiny. But around the league, you got some big games that impact the Texans' playoff race as well. Tomorrow, the Bengals, they take on the Steelers. If the Steelers could do the Texans a favor, that would be a great thing. Bills, Chargers. Don't anticipate the Chargers doing the Texans any favors. Another 8-6 team. And I don't know how many teams want to face Buffalo. The Colts are an underdog at Atlanta. Don't ask me why, but they are a 2.5-point dog. And the Jags, they're taking on the Bucks. That line has dropped a little bit. Don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play. We should find out tomorrow. But the scoreboard watching, what happens for the Texans is going to be really interesting because there is some scoreboard watching to look out for. So those are the 10 questions. Can Keenum play better? Can the Texans have a similar defensive effort? How much, not if, how much will Garrett impact the game? What will the Texans' run game look like? Is it going to be just Devin Singletary all day? Are they going to get Pierce, Dare involved? Can the Texans contain Njoku? What will the vibe be like out there? If you're there, by the way, come by, say hi. Can the Texans' secondary be the difference? Who will win the head coaching matchup? Will familiarity play a role? And what happens elsewhere? Fun times. Post-game show right afterwards. Merry Christmas to everyone. Appreciate you for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Best Texans coverage in the country. And when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate you.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily.